Thank you for watching this presentation. We hope you find that it not only explains more about your Hope College health plan, but that you and your family are able to find ways to save money. To begin with, let's look at the type of insurance Hope College has. Hope College is a self-funded plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield for our medical and with CVS Caremark for our prescription coverage. But what does self-funded really mean? It means when you incur expense or cost, the total is going to be a combination of what you pay in copays and deductibles and what Hope College pays, which ultimately influences what we all pay in premiums and deductibles. As an example, if you had a $450 prescription and you paid your $40 copay, Hope College would pay $410. If you had a surgery that was $63,000 and you maxed your out-of-pocket at $2,500, Hope College would write a check for $60,500. Now you might say, wait a minute, doesn't Blue Cross pay that or Caremark? We hire those companies to pay the bills on our behalf, but we in turn turn around and write those companies a check to cover the actual expenses. So in a self-funded plan, what we spend individually impacts what the collective group and the college pays. This spreadsheet is our spreadsheet for 2019. It's the spreadsheet we use to determine what the premiums will be each year for our employees. Everything you see in the pink or light red are expenses that we estimate are going to go into the plan, and the green is what the employees will pay. For 2019, we're anticipating just under $5 million for medical claims, just under $2 million for pharmacy claims. Then we have credits and rebates we receive from the drug companies. The administrative fees we pay to Blue Cross and Caremark to pay the bills on our behalf and administer other claim questions. Taxes that are incurred, some minor other expenses that are one-time rebates or one-time fees. And then we also have stop loss. And I want to explain stop loss a minute. That's another insurance company, in our case Sun Life, who we hire to cover us when a family has a catastrophic claim. If a family were to incur expenses that were over $300,000, our stop loss would kick in and the plan would stop paying expenses and stop loss would begin paying all future expenses. Stop loss is somewhat of a double-edged sword in that it protects the college from catastrophic claims and the plan from catastrophic claims, but as soon as you have a couple people in stop loss, they raise your rate significantly. And finally, we have the total, which we're estimating this year is going to be about $7.3 million. Now you'll notice there's three boxes that are highlighted here. The first one being claims, the next one being the amount, the net cost, and finally the box at the bottom for 2018 and 19. Every year we take the amount from last year and we age it according to what the Board of Trustees has approved based on the tuition increase. As you can see at the bottom of the column that says 2018-19, we have a budget this year of $5,988,935. So I know that the net cost when I'm finished needs to be below that number. And as you can see is $5,982,304. So the premiums that our employees pay are calculated based on the difference between the total cost and what the net cost has to be. The amounts in green you can see are what comes out from the faculty administrative salaried payroll, the hourly payroll, COBRA, the surcharges, and other. And other is typically retiree spouses who have not yet reached the age of 65. What's important to take away from this screen is that whatever feeds into the pink or the red is going to ultimately influence what's in the green. So when we have a concern of something going into the pink or red, then we began to get concerned about what are we going to do with premiums. To refocus on these numbers again, note the total cost, $7.3 million, the employee cost, and then the Hope College net cost. And the net cost has to be lower than the budget. We've been self-funded for 10 years, and in 9 of those 10 years, this calculation has worked. We had 1 year where the total cost and the net cost ended up being $600,000 more than the projected cost. In years where there's a surplus between the net cost and the budget, those monies get held in a reserve fund to pay for those years when the net costs are greater than the budget. But overall, moving to a self-funded plan has been very beneficial for both our employees and the college. The key piece that we are concerned about moving into the next couple of years is that of specialty drugs. This is a sheet that shows our prescription coverage from July 1 of 17 through December 31 of 17. The first thing we would celebrate is that of almost 5,500 prescriptions, 4,700 plus are of generic, 86.9%. That's a fantastic number, and we want to thank you for, when possible, using these generic drugs. If you go across the chart, you'll see a net cost for a generic drug is only about $27.27. The next tier is preferred brands. This is where you would be paying your $40 copay. These are brands that typically do not have a generic available, and so the insurance plan allows us to use the brand drug and gives us a preferred rate. But you can see already how much the net cost per drug rises to $447. Finally, the third tier is the $80 tier, which is the non-preferred brands. These are brands that typically have an alternative available, either a generic or a different brand drug that has the same efficiency as the drug you are selecting, but is at a lesser cost. You can see these drugs also average around $351 and are only 1.4% of our total expenditures. The next box is that of specialty drugs, and specialty drugs are now a national conversation. Specialty drugs are quickly becoming the largest expenditures in the health plan. One number of concern for us is if you look at the column of total net cost and percent, you will see that in the first 6 months of the year, specialty drugs are almost 56% of our total prescription costs. Just 2 years ago, this number was about 38%. Specialty drugs are not used by many in the plan, but when they are, they're very expensive drugs. And as you can see, the cost per drug for us, the first tier is about $3,800, then over $10,000 a prescription, and then for an average cost of $5,700. Specialty drugs can run as high as $20,000, $30,000, and $40,000 per prescription. Nationally, we know that this is a large question as to what plans are to do with employees who need these specialty drugs, given that often there isn't much you can do to offset the cost of these. But let's take a moment first and talk about the need for specialty drugs. One thing that we want to make very clear is that those who need to take the specialty drug often need, and we mean need, these drugs. They're using them to prolong life or to stay alive where no other options are available. So please hear us that if you need a specialty drug, we understand the reasoning behind those drugs. These families who incur these costs typically already have higher medical bills than the average person because they are already dealing with a significant medical issue. So the question that employers are struggling with is, how much do you ask a family to pay for a specialty drug when they are so expensive? We currently have a copay of $120 per prescription, and that's pretty much the national average in the country. To go higher would put a financial burden on these families at a time when they most often cannot afford additional expense. Also of concern is that we are aware that pharmaceutical companies are now moving more and more of their production capabilities to the area of specialty drugs, and some companies becoming now a third of the drugs they produce, and they will be moving more and more away from producing generics for current brand drugs. This is a concern nationwide, as this will drive the cost of drugs even higher. Currently, the top 10 costliest drugs for specialty drugs are anywhere from $300,000 to $800,000, and this quarter a new drug costing over $1 million per year is now available. So what can we as a health group do so that we can be assured the specialty drugs are available for our employees and their families who truly need them? Remembering the formula that what goes into the red impacts the amount of the green, it becomes all of our responsibility to do what we can to reduce the amount in the red. There are things you and your family are able to do to, again, assure that those families who need the medical plan the most and the specialty drugs will still have some affordability. This is our website, and we're in the current process of redoing our website, but the benefit page is complete. You'll notice on the far right-hand side, there top blue boxes. One is medical cost comparison tool, and the next is a prescription cost comparison tool. By using these tools, you can find ways to save your family potentially savings. We're going to begin with the prescription cost tool, and note that when you click on this box, it will not take you to CVS Caremark. Instead, it will take you to a different tool, and I'll explain that later. But to begin with, let's go to CVS Caremark. Once you log in, you will notice under Plan and Benefits that the second item down is Check Drug Cost and Coverage. I would like to show you a couple things concerning drugs. First, this is a great example of a drug that has been around for a very long time. This is Zestrel, or the generic brand Lisinopril. Lisinopril is a drug for blood pressure. It has probably been around since the 1940s, 1950s. You can see the difference that if someone continues to get the brand drug Zestrel, the cost for 3 months is $1,076. The cost for the Lisinopril prescription for 3 months is $2.30. A significant difference between generic and brand. We just want to point this out to you that if a brand didn't have a generic available, there would not be a different drug shown on the right-hand side of the page. We would encourage all of you to check your drugs. See if a generic is available, one that you're not using. And if so, please talk to your physician about switching to that generic drug. Part of what goes into the pharmacy costs is also dependent on where we purchase our drugs. We know, for example, that the CVS mail order, which has similar pricing to CVS and Target, are going to be most often our least expensive way to get our drugs. This is because we have negotiated contracts with these companies and have already negotiated rebates and discounts with the drug companies. If those are not your pharmacy of choice, then we know that the large national chains of Meijer, Costco, Walmart, and there's many more, Rite Aid, others, would be the next least expensive. Then typically regional chains such as Family Fare and D&W, and finally your local pharmacies for Skips, Paul's, and Bunty's are typically going to be your most expensive based on the type of drug. Now, one of the things we want to show you is how to use a couple other websites to show you pricing for drugs in the local area. But one thing you need to remember is this will not show you the discount we have earned through CVS. GoodRx.com is a good choice, but we're also going to show you the RX price quotes. If you click on that blue box on our website, it will take you to the RX price quotes. So to give you an example, I want to show you Eliquis. Eliquis is a blood thinner that many of our members are taking. First, you would go to your CVS Caremark and see what the price is. Now notice if you're in the blue plan, it's going to show you the copay. Your copay for a 90-day prescription is $80. But if you look in the small print under that, you will also see your plan is paying $1,051.39 for 3 months. For the 30-day, you have a $40 copay, and the plan is paying $375.39. I'd like you to remember the $375.39 as we move forward. Also note that that $375.39 is for a 60-day supply. First, I went to GoodRx just to see what the cost is locally and through the national chains. Now you're going to notice that the price that is not in bold is the price you would pay if you were to go there. The reason for that, the bolder price is the price with the coupon, but the coupons are available for those who do not have health insurance. So if you went to Costco, your price would be $484 to get this drug. Again, remember the $375 through our plan through CVS. You'll notice Meijer is $475, Walmart is $469, and notice CVS is $513. It doesn't say the $375. That is because it doesn't know Hope College's specific discounts. This is a generic tool. So again, that's why it's so important you actually go to the CVS website and compare your price to see if it truly is less. But if you were not using CVS in this situation, the least expensive place to go would be Walmart. This is the tool that if you click on the blue box, it will take you to this tool. This shows local pricing and includes some of the local pharmacies. In this situation, I do need to point out this was for a 30 tablet supply. So you need to double the price to get the 60-day tablet supply. On this page, you'll see that Family Fare, Meijer, Paul's, Rite Aid, and Skips are all pretty much the same price. So if you were not electing to use the CVS or the Target, then any of these locations would be okay to purchase the drug. But again, doubling this price would be $462 or $463. That's still quite a bit more than the $375 through CVS. In almost every situation, the CVS mail order or CVS pharmacies and Target pharmacies will have the least price for our employees. Now, we understand that people like to still support the local pharmacies. If most of your drugs are generic, if they are the $2, $5, $15 drugs, then there's no reason for you to use the mail order, and we would encourage you to support your local pharmacists. But if you are using a brand drug, either a preferred brand or a non-preferred brand, then we would encourage you strongly to use the CVS pharmacy or the CVS pharmacy mail order, because these prices are not only going to save you money, but they are going to save the college money as a whole. Please note that if you're taking one of the specialty drugs, you will need to work with CVS to determine the best price to receive those drugs, which is often going to be through a CVS specialty pharmacy. Now, not only can we save money in our pharmacy by checking our drugs, but we can also save even more dollars in our medical. Once you log into the Blue Cross Blue Shield site, and again, you can get to this site from the blue box on our website, you will notice under doctors and hospitals, the first choice is find a doctor, and under find a doctor is compare cost and quality. Once you log into that, you're going to see cost for procedures up on top. Actually, you'll have a choice, a menu choice, and you'll scroll down and click on the cost for procedures. This will take you to a screen that will allow you to comparison shop those non-emergency or non-significant medical costs. In this example, I put in the cost for an MRI of the knee. You will see on this that Holland Hospital's average cost for an MRI of the knee is $635. Zeeland Hospital is $1,200, Allegan is $1,661, Metro is $714. You'll see on the far left that I did a search of 100 miles. You could refine this to 25 or 50. But either way, there would have been probably another 10 to 20 options on here for you to compare your costs, including the Grand Rapids Hospital systems. Now, one thing you need to know is that if you were to go to Holland Hospital, which on here was the least expensive option, and have an MRI, it's not necessarily going to be $635 for you specifically. You may have needed contrast. You may have needed medication to relax you in the MRI machine. You may have needed an additional MRI of not just the knee, but other areas. And so note that these are average costs based on billed expenses to Blue Cross Blue Shield. The second procedure I wanted to show you was a simple blood draw for a cholesterol check. In this situation, I only showed two hospitals. Holland Hospital is $16 average cost for a blood draw. Zeeland is $70. Again, a pretty significant difference depending on where you went. Finally, I wanted to show you a colonoscopy. Average cost for Holland Hospital is $16.43, for Zeeland $26.81. Now you're going to notice already that in these three examples, procedures done at Zeeland Hospital were quite a bit more than Holland Hospital. You may ask what's driving that. Part of what drives it is that Zeeland is owned by the Spectrum Health System, and Spectrum Health System owns Priority Health, which means Priority Health receives the better discounts through the Spectrum facilities than Holland Hospital does. Holland Hospital is not owned by any health plan, and so they negotiate both with Blue Cross and Priority Health evenly. And so for our specific plan, because we're Blue Cross, our better costs are typically going to be at non-Spectrum facilities. I will point out that if you had continued to scroll down, you would have found, however, a surgery center owned by Butterworth Hospital that's in Grand Rapids, where a colonoscopy is about $700. That's because surgery centers are typically always going to be less cost than the hospitals. Again, thinking back to our scenario where Hope is paying the difference for what you paid. So in this case, if you were at Holland Hospital, perhaps you paid the first $500 because it was your first expense of the year. However, Hope would pay the other $1,100. In the Zeeland Hospital example, if you paid $500, Hope would pay $2,100. So again, the expense would be higher, remember our spreadsheet, the red, which ultimately affects the green. We're encouraging our employees to search out their procedures that are non-emergency procedures. If you need open heart surgery, I do not expect you to come out here and price check which hospital would save the plan money if you were to have open heart surgery. If you need to go to Metro Hospital, or if you need to go to the Meyer Heart Clinic, please do so. What we are talking about are those expenses that are less emergency. So blood draws, blood work, MRIs, x-rays, mammograms, prostate tests, colonoscopies, etc. If we all work to reduce some of these costs, then we can ensure that those families that need to pay the specialty drug premiums are going to be able to keep their premiums at a doable amount. Another way we can all save costs is through the chronic disease management. Recent research and studies show that 80% of heart disease and type 2 diabetes is preventable, and 40% of cancers are preventable. If diagnosed with a chronic disease, it's very important to work with a case manager at Blue Cross Blue Shield. But also, because these are preventable diseases, during the next year, our benefits manager, Connie Vanderswag, is going to be coordinating with our wellness director, Jessica Fashan, to provide additional programming on how to plug into disease prevention. We receive the statistics on which diseases are most prevalent on our campus, and they will be gearing their programs and workshops towards those diseases. Other ways to save, if you recall, last year we introduced Virtual Doctor, an online tool. So again, it's the weekend and your child has a rash. They were playing outside. You can log into the Virtual Doctor, and for $10, the doctor using Skype will look at your child's arm or leg and take a look at the rash. If it's a common rash, the doctor might say it's poison ivy. Simply go to the drugstore and buy some oatmeal bath or some calamine for the itching, and that's the only expense. If, however, he looks at the rash and says that the rash was something more and you'll need to go to the emergency room, then you'll incur that cost. But to begin with the virtual doctor for those non-emergency items saves both you and the plan dollars. Also, case managers are not just for medical, but also for pharmacy. And finally, bill review of large claims, especially hospital, is very important. We have learned that if you have a significant hospital bill, you should ask for an itemized statement. This may take 1 or 2 calls to the hospital. But in preparing the itemized statements, hospitals will sometimes find charges that were inappropriately charged to your account. They'll remove those charges before you receive the itemized statement. Or you yourself can question claim items that are on the bill, and often can talk to the hospital about whether those were justified charges. This year, Blue Cross Blue Shield has also partnered with an outside company and will be reviewing all of our claims over a certain dollar amount. So if we were to receive a hospital bill of $30,000, they would not pay that claim until this company reviewed all the charges to look for unfair or out of sync charges. The other thing you can do is ask questions. In speaking with my own physician for this presentation, he shared with me that physicians often don't know where to send people for procedures. They are not allowed to log in and see the basics of our plan and what the cost would be. So perhaps when you're meeting with your doctor, if he suggests you need an MRI, you ask for a day or two to first go out and comparison shop before you have your physician schedule the MRI. You can also ask questions about your drugs. Again, remember, your doctor is often not thinking about what the drug costs for you or the group plan. So do your homework and bring the questions. And if changing to a different drug doesn't affect your treatment, your doctor will be more than willing to work with you. We have found that hospitals and doctors are very willing to work with us. This past year, our own experience was a specialized physician in Grand Rapids who needed lab work for a procedure that was coming up and had sent my own family to the lab on Lakewood Boulevard. Knowing that the lab at Holland Hospital would most likely be less, we requested that the prescription be sent there for the lab work, and they were more than willing to accommodate that request. So again, we need to be savvy consumers for these non-emergency things that will help the plan save money. If you have any questions about anything in this presentation, please don't hesitate to contact Connie Vanderswag or myself. We are more than happy to sit down with you, talk about specifics, or to even show you how to use the tool. Also remember that available to you is the walk-in clinic on 7th and Central. They are a Blue Cross Blue Shield dedicated walk-in clinic and can help you review your medical bills, review medical procedures if you have questions about what is covered and what is not covered, and also will help you look at the plans and help decide which plan is best for you. Thank you very much for listening to the presentation.